let's go back. Okay, so that was an article from the Griot. Then the article from one of the articles from New York Times. He could have seen what was coming behind Trump's failure on the virus. This is a huge article from New York Times, April 11th, 2020. Read this article, written by Eric Lipton, David E. Sanger, Maggie Haberman, Michael D. Shear, Mark Mazzetti, and Julian E. Barnes from New York Times. I read New York Times, Washington Post every day. Read that. Let's go back to the other article from New York Times. Black-owned businesses could face hurdles in federal aid program. Black-owned businesses could face hurdles in federal aid program. Minority business owners have always struggled to secure bank loans, especially African-American business owners specifically. And this is written by a white woman. I think she means well, but she should say African-American business owners, okay? Now, many banks want to deal only with existing customers when making loans through the government's $349 billion aid package. Now, I talked about this before they even rolled this out, okay? Because the banks, it's about 1,800 banks and credit unions that are working with the Small Business Administration. Well, they're taking care of their customers first. They're taking care of their customers first, okay? So what members of the Congressional Black Caucus are pushing for in this fourth coronavirus bill is funding for especially African-American owned businesses that don't have existing business relationships, okay? Don't have existing business relationships with banks, okay? And to loosen some of these restrictions, because we're going to lose a lot of approximately 4 million African-American owned businesses. I think maybe between 25% to 1/3 not going to survive this. Okay, so let's go back to this. I think maybe have a minute before the break here. Let's go back to this article. So after Yasmin Young, the owner of Diaspora Salon in Baltimore, Maryland, after she was forced to temporarily close Diaspora Salon because of the coronavirus pandemic, she tried to get an emergency loan under the federal government's $349 billion relief program for small businesses. But Bank of America, one of the biggest banks participating in the program, refused to consider her application because Ms. Young had a credit card from Capital One. Bank of America said Capital One was her primary bank, and Capital One was not yet accepting emergency relief loan applications. As of Friday, which would have been April 10th, as of Friday, April 10th, a week after the program was started, Capital One's website still advised borrowers to keep checking back for updates and said its online application would be available, quote unquote, shortly. We'll deal with this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, stand by, everybody.